Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Welcome back to the show, where we interview the nation's leading real estate entrepreneurs. I've got a special treat for you guys here in the studio today. I've got Ash Selle. She is an absolute title titan in the industry. She's been in the business since... You're welcome. She's been in the business since 2001, has an incredible backstory, and is someone who I think, from the short time we've been able to spend together on our pre-show podcast, is one that's defeated all odds to become a rising and incredible success in her own right, and how she benefits the real estate biz and you other fellow real estate investors. Just if you're joining us for the second, third, or 100th time, it's your host, Schmidt, back at it again. If it's your first time, you're in for a treat today. I'm sure we'll be a regular on your podcast listening docket. Before we get started, we're going to be talking today about red flags to look out with when you're dealing with sellers, building a trusted partner for your real estate transactions, and what you should really look for when you're looking to work with a good title partner for your real estate company. Before we begin, just remember, at Investor Fuel, we help real estate investors, service providers, and real estate entrepreneurs 2 to 5x their businesses to build the businesses they've always wanted in order to allow them to live the lives they've always dreamed of. I've only said that like 1,000 times, and of course I messed my own intro up. It's hilarious. Ash, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks, Stephen. Thanks
so glad
for
to have
me.
you here.
Yeah.
Before we kind of talk about some meat and potatoes as to what you're doing now in your business with Investor Title, which you have one of the coolest logos, I got to say, that I've seen.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's a really new age lion. I like it a lot. I'm a big lion fan. But can you give our listeners 100%? I love that. Can you give our listeners a little bit of backstory, a little bit of your background, and how you got to where you're at today?
Certainly. I've been in the title business for 24 years. Started out with a real estate attorney. Learned a tremendous amount from him just in the first decade. And just decided that I wanted to brand myself as an investor-friendly real estate closer, because there was a need for it and we didn't have a lot of that available. And keep in mind, this is like almost 15 years ago when I started that process.
Sure.
And just created quite a following and realized that I really liked the more complex transactions, getting to the finish line and helping investors make money.
So what got you into real estate in the niche that you're in the first place? I mean, 2001 was a while back. If you've forgotten it by now, I won't hold it against you. But how did you?
I was a young mom and I was looking for a stable job. And I looked at the old school classifieds and I saw an attorney that was hiring for title and went and met with him. Didn't have any experience, but he said he liked my personality, so gave me a shot.
No kidding. Well, you do have an infectious personality. I will say that.
Thank you.
I understand why he gave you the job. So when you took that, what would you say was the biggest risk you took early on? I mean, you talk about being a mom, and at that, a single mom when you got started, correct?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think the biggest risk was time.
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
I really had to dedicate a lot of time to building myself over all those years to get where I'm at. And it's pretty hard to balance that with being a mother. And honestly, I worked 2 jobs for 20 years. 18 years, I worked 2 jobs at the same time to get where I'm at. So I was a server, bartender, and then doing title all day and being a mother.
Wow.
So,
yeah. Yeah,
so
single
survivor.
moms have crazy superpowers that, man, I wish I could tap into that without having to go through it. My wife was a single mom for years before we ended up getting married, and so then I came along and broke her trend of single momliness. But
good for her.
But, yeah, I'm
We're
telling
the
you,
tough
it's
ones.
it's incredible. I mean, I really can't fathom. I don't think guys can do it the same way. Like I couldn't, for sure. So I mean, I give my hat off to
our
you
brains
for
are
that.
a little different.
For sure. So would you consider the
That's
attorney
why
that you
I'm
work
a
for?
lioness now.
I love it. Would you consider the attorney that you worked for your first mentor, or who would you say was your first mentor, and what did they teach you?
It absolutely was that attorney. He had so much faith in me. He's like, right off the bat, he was like, you're going to be like our top closer. He's like, you're amazing, you're incredible, and just really took the time to sit and educate me on every single thing, to the point where I took it all the way through my career, and I very rarely have to contact a real estate attorney for any assistance on anything. So that was huge. He was a huge mentor for me. And now I think it's really my business partners.
What was like the most impactful thing that you think they taught you back in the day?
I guess just, I don't know. I mean, proofreading, being very careful with your verbiage, documenting everything. There's just so much.
So, yeah, I know it's a big topic. Sometimes I find a nugget. Sometimes it's like, man, there's too much. I've already forgotten most of the stuff they taught me.
Yeah, I don't know.
And it's
That
usually
was
more
like
than most
forever
people can ever
ago.
learn. So
Yeah.
you talk about your business partners being mentors to you now. What do you love about the relationship you have with your business partners? I think that's something that a lot of people struggle to find a really good business partner. So what has that relationship been like for you guys? How's
The
that evolved?
dynamic is there. I mean, we're all just so colorful and outgoing, and we all contribute different things. We all have different personalities. And it's a major support system on the daily. I tell you, I mean, I might just walk off a cliff if I didn't have them sometimes.
Yeah,
This is a tough
100%.
job. It's like being what do you call them? The air controller guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, that work all night. And
Sure.
so just having that support and being able to feed off each other and just really, it's all about elevating each other. We all want to see us all get to the top. So it's a really, really great atmosphere. And it's a really good feeling to finally be there.
100%. So one of the things that you specialize in is really working primarily with investors. Not that you won't do other deals, but 90%, like you shared in the pre-show, is really
Right.
investor properties. So
Yes.
like, how did you find that there was such a big need? Because I don't see a lot of title companies that are like, oh, we're the go-to for investors. So how did that happen to come about?
Well, it actually happened because I worked under another investor-friendly closer that owned a title company. I was her funding manager for many years through the whole 2007, 2008 period. And so I got to learn a lot dealing with all foreclosed properties, REO properties.
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency. It's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
How to set investors up so they can get in certain lien positions, to redeem properties from the sheriff. Just all that really, really interested in me. And that's when it just started to spin off from there. And I ended up going to a different company and not working under her anymore. But she was also a pretty huge mentor in learning all that. But she's also one of my only competitors in the state.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So it's almost like you found a blue ocean and a red ocean of title companies, if you're familiar with that concept.
I am. That is absolutely correct.
That's really interesting.
It's a good place to be.
And just to note for our listeners, because they don't know this, but you got started within the last year, and you're already as busy as you could possibly be without probably hiring and scaling. Am I incorrect about that?
No, you are correct. We started in November, my 24-year anniversary, actually November 12th. And we started that day, and we've just been going wild ever since. Consistent flow of business, new clientele all the time. We already have a closer added, an assistant added, branding manager, tons of stuff going on. And we're looking to add more parties in some of these other states that we're getting licensed in.
So
Quickly.
what's been your secret to creating long-term relationships within the business? Because obviously you don't get to where you're at without having really good relationships.
I think it's a lot of it, I find, is just being really personable and being authentic and letting people get to know who I really am, the good and the bad. I've just found that almost all of my clients that I work with have been loyal to me since the day they started in investments. And many times I've had new investors come to me for advice, and you want to give everyone advice, but you can't always give free advice. But there's times when you get really lucky and you have an investor that just blows up and they start doing awesome work, and it really pays. And we create that relationship. They're all long-term relationships that I have with everybody.
What are some of the biggest misconceptions about what you do that investors aren't maybe aware of?
Well, one would be title companies don't draft contracts, so we don't negotiate deals. We can't act as attorneys. We also can't just print out lists to give clients for leads. Those are calls I get often where people ask.
Might be a slight compliance issue with that.
Yeah, so and it's kind of like, well, if I could just give you a list of all these properties or all these investors, don't you think like that would be like gold for me? Why would I be doing closings?
Yeah, 100%. So how do you choose who to work with? Like, will you work with anybody, or how do you avoid maybe what's a red flag for a client even for you that's like an immediate no to do business with them?
We're dealing with some growing pains right now, as far as that goes, that you can't just work with everybody. There are many clients to accommodate. There's a lot of red flags you have to watch for when people call and they're trying not to be transparent. That's a huge red flag for me. Won't work with anybody that's not transparent or unethical. Like that's it's all about ethics in what we're doing. And I also am commonly a neutral party in every transaction, because being an investor-friendly closer, you're usually representing the seller and the buyer and wholesalers and assignors and end buyers, everybody. So So you have to be a neutral party. And it's not that, it's not that.
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
The closer sharing a bunch of information about how much money someone's making. It's more so, yeah, this is a transaction where it's going to be a different buyer than that. Or you're acting as an investor to make a profit, things like that. So just full transparency would be a huge thing. And I often get calls where I notice there isn't a lot of transparency. So I will suggest that, maybe they don't have the skills or the knowledge yet. Maybe they're watching a podcast where the person doesn't really actually do investments, things like that. So give them a little bit of a benefit of a doubt. But
So let me dive into that a little bit more because that's very interesting. What are some of those ways that people are lacking transparency? Is that the person buying the property and how they've positioned themselves to the seller, or what are some of those ways that you see them kind of being a little dishonest? Or just maybe not dishonest, but just not transparent.
And that's the thing, is like some aren't being dishonest. Some just don't know. They didn't write the playbook. They don't know.
They don't know any better.
So, exactly. So they just need the education a lot of times. But it would be like transparency mostly to the sellers. Like I have a deal that just fell apart. It was a major mess because there was one seller that didn't speak English. She didn't understand what she was getting into. It was a sub-2 transaction, had two assignors, two companies, 2 JV agreements, and an end buyer that backed out because the deal was a mess, and then another end buyer that backed out because the deal was a mess. So and throughout this whole process, I'm getting texts from the seller saying, these people are liars. They feel like they weren't, she feels like people weren't transparent. And then you have her personal information going from this person to this person to this person to this person on a sub-2, just so this end buyer, she has no idea who they are, can do things with her mortgage. And it's really tough because it's like, the wholesalers, they care about the money. They want to make money. They don't care about where her personal information goes. So that puts me in a position as a neutral party to make sure that everybody's transparent and they know what they're getting into. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, 100%. I'm even confused as to how that happens. I mean, kind of knowing the game a little bit myself, like how does that even come to be where you have that many parties on the back end?
It's a mess. I've done so many deals. I've done, double closings with assignments, with contract for deeds. I mean, if anybody's seen it, it's me.
Sure. Yeah, no kidding.
Everybody's trying to get a piece of the money right now.
Do you think that's something that's come about recently? You say right now, but is that an age-old thing that's always been a deal?
I think more so now.
Why do you think that is?
Now. I think it's because of all of the socials and everything surrounding the sub-2 market. I think that's a huge thing. About half the stuff I do is sub-2.
Wow.
And a lot of the transaction coordinators and people that come to us, they don't really have that knowledge built yet and understand it, every single moving part in the transaction. So I think that there's just a lot of that going on, and maybe people aren't trying to be not transparent. They just don't know that they have to be.
Yeah, that makes sense. So how do you serve as a liaison to make sure that like the seller's protected versus the buyer being protected? Because you're kind of a neutral party that encompasses the whole gamut of protection. So how does that work?
We have a hold harmless agreement signed. I make it very, very clear to the sellers what they're entering into. because a lot of times at the closing table, they'll be like, that's not what I was told, or that's not what I thought. And I have to be, even if I'm going to lose money on it, I have to make sure that everybody has a clear understanding. There currently is a case law where there's an issue involving a lot of assignors and end buyers and a seller, and transaction coordinators and a title company on a sub two, that there were issues with. The seller felt people weren't transparent.
So I think one of the things you brought up there, and you don't have to get into like a specific deal or anything, because I'm sure you can't share it anyways. But, but like I think people have a misconception. Another one that maybe pops up is that the title company is the one that makes all the money in the transaction outside of like whoever's like assigning a contract or buying or whatever. How does a title company lose money in a deal? How is that even possible?
Well, time is money. There's that.
Sure.
But
Opportunity
also,
cost.
yeah, we do have to do things like order title work. We have to employ people. We have to collect title insurance on deals if there should ever be a claim. And if we don't close a deal and it cancels, we're making nothing.
Sure.
And a lot of deals that are coming across the table these days aren't getting to closing, because a lot of wholesalers aren't figuring out their numbers properly up front. Things are falling apart, the transparency issue, that kind of thing. So yeah, so we're not the big money makers in it. We're
Sure.
here to help. You have to find your title company, treat them like gold, because we're here to help you.
Sure. And what you're referring to, I guess, maybe that's where my frame for asking that question was off, because you're referring to when a deal doesn't close, right?
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Which obviously then it's just like anything in sales, right? Like you spend a ton of
Yep.
time, a ton of resources, a ton of employment costs, all that stuff, and at the end of the day, if a deal doesn't get done, you lose the time and the money that could
Exactly.
have came from it.
Yep.
100%.
Exactly.
Mm. So what's one deal that taught you the most in the last 24 years?
And there's a lot of them. One deal that taught me the most. There's so many of them. Um, we're talking like millions of deals right now, Stephen.
Sure. I understand, Ash. I understand. So let me ask you this. What systems or processes, how about we go this route? What systems or processes have saved you from major headaches that you put in place?
Systems and processes that have saved me. I would say, well, majorly our system that we use. Everything's super automated. The AI is helping, putting through different processes. Systems as far as title goes, like I said, we're like air flight controllers, and everything's constantly moving and moving super, super fast. Um, a lot of the systems are up in here.
Sure. What's
We're
so
working on
then
taking them out.
yeah, I understand that. Sometimes it takes a little bit to weed things out to get what actually works the most effective. What's
Yes, exactly.
what's something you wish more investors were honest about? Kind of going back to the previous. What's something you wish people were more honest about?
Um,
That
I
would make
wish
everybody's
that
job easier at the end of the day at the closing table.
it would make everybody's job easier if they were just upfront, like, and put in their contracts, hey, I'm an investor, I'm doing this for profit. So nobody can come back and say, why is there a different buyer? Why is there this? And also, honesty about earnest money. A lot of wholesalers will say they sent their earnest money to title, but we never get it. So that would be an important thing. We have a really cool system where you can digitally deposit earnest money. So you just take a picture of it and send it in. So it's pretty slick. But yeah, I mean, the transparency with the sellers, those are the biggest things. It's the sellers in the end, they're all in default. They're losing homes, they're hoarders, they lost a loved one. There's all this stuff that's going on. And by the time, they get to the closing table, they want to feel good. Another thing would be for investors to really get their negotiations out of the way before they get to closing. because we can't negotiate for people. Most of the time, people are coming to the closing table. They don't understand the sub two that they're entering into, um, or contract for deed. So,
Sure. So what should investors look for when they're looking for an investor-friendly title company?
well, you're gonna want to find either an investor-friendly title company through your investment community by getting a referral. One that works with primarily investors, because you can call. I get calls all the time where someone stated, call this company, they're investor friendly. They go to call them and they find out, well, yeah, they'll do a double closing, but you have to have transactional funding, or they don't know what a novation is,
Sure.
that kind of thing. So really interview them, make sure that they understand creative transactions, so sub twos, novations, assignments, contract for deeds, everything, redemptions. Make sure that they understand what all those are. Because one issue I'm encountering now is a lot of my sellers are doing novations. Well, the other title companies that claim they're investor friendly, they don't know what it is. And they don't know how to do it or accomplish it. So I end up having to train them.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, also someone that's you want to build a relationship with the person you're working with, because that's how everything flows. And once you find that title company, you just really want to treat them like gold. You want someone that's going to watch out for things like I watch out for my investors for the Department of Commerce. Is there something in their purchase agreement that I may suggest you should omit or add, just to help you out? And also just giving as much value, a company that gives you value, as far as like for Investra title, we go to networking events, we are parts of clubs, we're part of all these types of things. We present at different events, so we can give that kind of value back to the clients out there.
Sure.
So you want to feel confident in who you're working with.
100%. What are some of the red flags that they should be looking out for when they're dealing with sellers?
When they're dealing with sellers, that's a big one. There's some keywords. It would be, of course, death. It would be will. It would be divorce. It
Hmm.
would be power of attorney. Um, those are some of the biggest ones, because depending on the state, well, a lot of states, you have to go through probate even if there's a will. Or someone might say they have a power of attorney and they think they can sign for their deceased brother. But what really happens is that power of attorney is no longer valid when someone's deceased for real property. So just things like that. Like if you hear some of those types of words, it's best to go to your investor friendly title company and ask them to do a track search on the property, see what's out there, or mention to them that they said, oh, someone had a will. Well, that your title company can look into that further and help you figure out how to structure it. And auction. Auction, that's another good one.
If you had to go back to the beginning of when you all got started, but you could take which, it's kind of funny because you kind of have done this, sort of, because you waited 24 years to start your own deal, but knowing what you know today, if you had to go back to 2001 and start all over from scratch, what would you do different and what would you do the same with the knowledge that you now have today?
I would have started my own company sooner.
Mm.
That's for sure. I would have just chased growth sooner. And I don't think there's much more I would have changed, because everything I went through, every struggle, every accomplishment, every single thing I did brought me to where I am. One thing though would have been not having a ton of time to spend with my daughter. Um, but that's part of the single mom thing and business thing and stuff like that. But we're super close, so
Right. Well, that's
she
good.
knows her mom's a warrior princess,
You
and she's
bet.
a little mini warrior princess.
I love it. Yeah, that's the hardest thing. I've got four kids myself, and even as like a dad, I sometimes struggle with when I'm with them, I should be working, but when I'm working, I should be with them thing. And I
Right.
know you've definitely felt that. And,
Yep.
it's all about still communicating, I think, to the kids when you're, especially in a very heavy work season of like, look,
Yes.
I'm doing all of this for you, and it's not going to make sense right now, but give it
Correct.
like 20 years.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's teaching them patience and delayed gratification early on, right?
It
Um,
is. And it's really nice too because having an entrepreneurial spirit, your kids follow that, so
right.
it's pretty awesome. My daughter has that personality, my son has that personality. So,
That's awesome. I love
so
it.
it's cool.
Do
It's
you
like a
involve
little
your,
gift
do
and they
you
don't know
involve the
about it.
kids? Do you involve the kids at all?
Um, well, my daughter worked for me some summers when she was in college. My son used to come to the office in the summers and hang out with my clients. He loved that. Um, Other than that, they just know when mom's working
Sure.
and is in boss mode.
You bet. You bet. Boss mode. Well,
Yeah.
Ash, super grateful that we were able to make this happen. If people want to
Yes,
learn more
thanks,
about
Stephen.
you or what you're working on, where should they go for that?
We have a really awesome website, investratitle.com. You can get quotes on there, you can email on there. I think Facebook is a really, really great source for business for me and for people to communicate with me for just preliminary questions. I often get a lot of messages on Facebook and within the investor groups throughout the country. And so you can find us at Investra Title as well on Facebook, or Ash Selle.
You got it. We'll go connect with her for more, folks. Show her some love from the Fuel fam, the real estate
Yay!
pros. And I hope you got as much out of this episode as I did. And I'm sure if you did, then you got a ton of value. So we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks again for being here, Ash.
Thank you, Stephen.
You bet.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.